Hello, everyone. You're watching Let's Talk About Prepping. I'm Tyler, your host, and I just wanted to hop on here and have a little bit of a live chat with everyone about the prospect of U.S. destabilization. It's on all of our minds, and I think it's now starting to really creep into the public consciousness, as we'll talk about in a minute when we have some concurrent live stream viewers. But I think we can all agree that to some degree, uh, the idea of the U.S. destabilizing is on everyone's mind. And I think after the debates last night, as far as anybody outside the United States who's watching it is concerned, I think that idea has perked its ugly head up. So, what I want to talk about tonight is the prospect of some degree of destabilization in the social fabric, in the governmental fabric, at whatever degree that you're thinking of. I think we're going to be looking at some of that, some more of that. We already have it going on. So I'd love to hear some of your guys' thoughts, whether it's in the current live stream or in the comments afterward, about what you see happening in the United States. Not necessarily talking about huge threats. We can talk about other things as well. I don't want to get too political, but what are you seeing as the things that might become less stable in America in the coming year? I think that regardless of the election, regardless of coronavirus, regardless of whoever gets in, whatever happens, we are seeing so much social unrest, so many unfinished narratives of various kinds that I think the only thing we could truly guarantee for this coming year is chaos, is instability. So, what does the future of an unstable America mean to you? What does it mean to the nation? What does it mean to the world? Because I think that this is the topic on a lot of people's minds. Hello, Tony. Yep, here I am. So, mostly just talking about American destabilization. It seems that some of us don't agree that we're going to have an SHTF because of the election. And I might not go that far myself. I mean, for some people, they might not know anything's going on. In fact, that might be the case for many people. And therein lies some of the deviousness of the situation, that a lot of people are not going to realize that something crazy is going on in this country, even while it is. So there will never be any moment, as many of us think of a civil war. There will never be that moment. There will never be battle lines. There will never be widespread press coverage to the point where the everyday head down in their phone, nose to the grindstone person, they may never realize momentous events are going on. And in fact, in history, a lot of people never did realize what was going on at the moment that it was going on. They heard about it later, but the events had happened. Clint is hanging out just right over here. He's just holding his post. I guess I could move him over here now that I'm doing stuff over here. Probably should. Enough of you seem to like it. Nope, Reed, I'm in the same room. Just rotated and furniture shifted. Good seeing you. Hey, Backwoods. How you doing? I haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see you. So, for the couple of you hopping in at the moment, what we're talking about is not necessarily Civil War, not necessarily SHTF, and not necessarily just because of the election or coronavirus or social unrest or whatever, or foreign affairs. I think we're pretty much guaranteed, above all else, more chaos, more instability in the US in the coming days. And I think that affects a lot of people, whether you live in America or not. So I'm just curious, what are your guys' thoughts? What are you seeing as the greatest threats coming up in America and abroad because of these things, or just in your neck of the woods? What are the threats? What do you see that meaning for you? Are you living in a city? Do you have no option of getting out, or are you in the process of getting out of the city? Do you see this as go time, as there are enough red flags that as a serious prepper, we're not any longer playing around? This is the time. I've never been more concerned than I am now. Is that you? Where are you guys at, and what are you doing right now? Are you feeling like this is just another bit of hysteria, and this time next year, we're all going to feel like whoever was freaking out right now is silly, because I love to think that. I'm usually that person. Whenever someone's going, there's going to be a civil war, this is going to pop off, this is going to cause it, I'm the one going, I'm sorry, I don't see it. I don't see it in the normal people, and the people that need to be, you know, turned on, motivated in order for this thing to happen. I'm starting to see that with enough things where normal people can't help but talk about it. We are in a time where something populist can happen, and that is often when things can go bad. So I'm curious what you guys are thinking, where you think we're going to be this time next year, and what that means for you. So I'm going to catch up here in the chat. I see that we've had a good few people hopping in and saying hi. So hello, Tony, Reed, Backwoods, SHTF, good to see you. I wear it often enough that you'll probably see it. I've got a few favorite shirts, but I launder them every single day. I do need more shirts, so if any of you have free shirts you'd like to send, you will probably see them. You're welcome to send me free shirts. I wear a small to medium in the buffer side of that range, just so you know. Yeah, SHTF and I just recently met in live stream watching some of the peaceful protests going on around our country. And just so you guys know, if you're not aware, every night for the past 120, 130, we're up in there now, for the past 4+ months, every night there have been people trying to keep other people awake, trying to do damage in some city in our country. And that is not normal. Another point in the destabilization of America. That is just not normal. We're seeing so many things that just, America is generally a pretty bland place. No matter what the media is going on about at some point in time, the vast majority of America, pretty docile, pretty keeping to themselves. But what we're seeing lately is a huge deviation from the norm for a lot of regular people. And that's the kind of thing that really gets me thinking that preppers might not be as wrong as they usually are. Catching up to you guys still? Oh, no, I am a huge phony, Tony. So don't get it wrong. You are just on another one of those streams. I think I saw something about domestic beers in here. Where was that? Reed's working on some projects. Yes, people are definitely lost in the sauce. This is something that Tony over at Palmetto Prepared and I have been talking about. Do not get stuck in bullshit prepping rabbit holes. That is the majority of the prepping community. No offense. If it's not you, don't jump in front of that bullet. But if the shoe fits, wear it. The community is full of a lot of people who, whether it's malicious or not, or just mission creep, they've ended up just spouting the lines, just putting out the video that they know will do well, that they know more or less is the information people want to hear. Not necessarily pandering, but as a YouTuber, when you go, what video should I make? Should I make the boring video about how to coil a hose the best way? It's valuable information, and it's actually going to be really useful in a lot of situations. And if I have an insight into it, why not share it? Although nobody wants to watch a video about how to best handle or coil a long hose in an irrigation system. But they might like guns. I'm constantly tempted to do gun videos, to go out and see how far I can shoot with a shotgun slug and see if I can get some views from that. My best viewed video is about my shotgun loadout belt. So there's always that pressure in the vast majority of preppers, whether it's just into clickbaity titles or actually just not realizing that the thing that they're focusing on is not the most cost efficient or most efficient way to prep for most people. And so unfortunately, a lot of major channels are likely going to be getting people killed by either not properly tailoring the information to their audience or not properly equipping their audience to use their brain in what they're seeing, whether or not they need this item. The number of preppers who suggest $2,000 purchases but don't give you the information of this is not for you if you are this kind of person. This is really just for people who are looking to fill this need. You don't get that. They want to sort of feed a narrative and read into it. And this is not the time for that. This is, again, I never like being alarmist, but if there's ever been a time where our concern should be genuinely heightened, not because of any particular threat, not because, oh, I think there's going to be civil war in Virginia. I think this thing or that thing. Barack is going to institute martial law. There is no single thing that I'm particularly worried about, but I'm more worried than I've ever been because of all the things. And so if there's ever been a time where our hackle should be up, where we should be in a much more heightened state of concern, it is at least for the next while. Now, that's not to say that you should be selling the farm and moving out into the mountains, but I definitely think that it's time to reassess our position, our attitude, our outlook, and really think about what's going on and how it affects our baseline, to not just be living like it's still 2012 and everything's peachy. Smoking a stogie and waiting for them to break glass. Well, who's going to be breaking glass near you, Backwoods? I'm still a little bit behind here. Oh, well, they're just an idea, Reed. They're not people. Putting a fire hose inside the house. Very good, Reed. That's the problem, Backwoods. YouTube would have a lot of problems with people having serious conversations about prepping, about what really needs to be done right now. It would be seen as radical and somewhat dangerous. But in all honesty, people need to be very seriously preparing to increase their, to just have a better situation. Now, again, that's not doing anything radical. That's just doing all the same things that you would always have done to increase the stability of your lifestyle. You shouldn't be living in an untenable way, something that you can't provide unless everything goes right. You shouldn't be living that way anyways. And you should start, all of prepping should be just expanding how long you can do what you're doing if outside help and support and structure goes away. That's the whole basis of prepping. So anything that you're watching that's going away from just have more of everything that you need and want is a distraction. And we're in a time where you do not need distractions. Just catching up with you guys here for a moment. Well, yes, to a certain degree, Prophet. Preps are useless when you have to evac or bug out. But that's really depending on what you're talking about and how much you have. A lot of people, I'd say probably the vast majority of preppers, do not have more preps than they'd be able to fit in the vehicles that their family would be driving away with. Hey, Ravens, how you doing? Good to see you, buddy. It's pretty funny running into you on another channel's comment section, but I guess it sort of makes sense. No, I really do. I get what you're saying, SHTF, because a lot of people, they stack so much stuff, and a lot of it is quite bulky. And yes, one of the major gaps in a lot of preppers' considerations is the need to actually bug out, the need to become a refugee. Of all the threats, of all the threats throughout human history that have caused chaos, mostly war, famine, other things like that, things that if you were a prepper in that time period, you'd want to be prepared for. Of all those things, I can't say this with any authority because I really haven't looked at the number, but I would be willing to bet that far more than the people that died, people became refugees. Maybe not more people than died from disease, because that's always just astronomically the highest killer, but you're far more likely to become a refugee than almost anything else that might happen to you, especially because ideally you'll do that before dying. And I do not see a lot of preppers. Yes, or you could live in your bug out location, Tony. But if they say tomorrow at noon, unequivocally, an asteroid's going to fall on Tony's house, I imagine that you'll leave. And I imagine you have some kind of plan for what you'll do if that happens. And you have some idea of just how much your preps and which ones need to go with you. And most preppers don't have that. They go, nope, I'm living in my bug out place. If an asteroid falls on it, I'm screwed. Or I'm just going to hop in my car and go without most of my stuff, because there isn't a nest egg on a trailer loaded at all times, ready to get hooked up to and driven away if the asteroid's coming in 10 minutes. If the asteroid's coming in 10 minutes, nothing's going to stop it. You can't shoot at it, nothing. What are you going to do? Do you have a trailer that you can just hook up and it's got as much of the base needs of your preps? 100 gallons of water, 2 weeks of food, some guns, some ammo. Does it have all that stuff? Because if it doesn't, if you're scrambling around to grab that stuff when the asteroid's going to hit in 10 minutes and you might have the chance to get away, what are you going to do? So I'm not challenging you guys, which, I mean, to a certain degree I am, but the vast majority of the community, back to SHTF's Prophet's comment, they're not thinking like that. That's not a consideration. It is stacking. And those things won't do you good if you literally have to go. You know, if 500 marauders are coming down your street and the entire neighborhood is just stampeding past your house, you are not going to fight 500 people. And it would be valiant for you to choose to fight and die just to defend, you know, the collection of sticks that is your house. But would you rather live and save your family for another day? Those are all questions each person needs to ask themselves. But sometimes bugging in means death. And a lot of preppers do not even address that, because at some point their outlook on prepping keeps them from going certain places. And that's the main problem with a lot of preppers, is they're here for a reason. They're here for that dopamine hit. They're here for that feeling of security, because whatever threat they've seen that they've chosen to be concerned about is this thing. This is what gets it. I get frozen food. I get freeze-dried food, and that fills everything that I should ever need. As long as I have 4 years worth of freeze-dried food, I'll be good for 30 years. In 30 years, I'll do it again. I'll get a gun. I'm good. That is not the case. And now more than ever, people need to be waking up from that delusion and doing something about it, because if the next few months don't cause these, you know, instability for enough people, enough of us. Now, I know a lot of preppers live far enough away where they go, yeah, it might happen, but it probably won't be happening here. Fair enough. But what if the supply chain just completely breaks down? What if businesses stop selling certain products certain places as a political statement? That might seem crazy, and in some places it actually is illegal, but there are a lot of things that can start happening that can affect us no matter where we live. And it's not just if you think that certain Marxist organizations are going to start coming down your neighborhood streets, because they may well not. I mean, I live in a city where if far left groups try to gather, there will be it will be ugly, you know. Thousands of people geared up went out with their guns and their tack vests and counter protested last time, and the city made national news. But so I'm not saying this from a perspective of, well, I feel safe, because I'm fully aware that no, you can't feel safe in any place. That we live in a world that's so interconnected that no matter how far away you are, and believe me, I know what far away is. I know what it's like to take 2 hours from the nearest road that's not paved to get to a place. You're still not truly secluded in this world. So, and no man's an island for longer than a few years. Who's picking on DMAC? Hello, Josh Connor. So this whole long bug out rant as a response to SHTF Prophet saying that all the preps in the world won't help you if you have to bug out. So I agree. You definitely do need to bug out. But I also don't like that as a reason not to, you know, how much water do you need in a week? All right, how much do you need in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks? What meals would you like to eat? You know, what meals can you have that you would like to eat for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Just getting your baseline necessities of life taken care of, and then just always incrementally expanding that is the best way to prep. And right now, people need to really be thinking about that. And that was my original point, was this is not the time to be doing rash decisions, to be taking loans, to be leveraging yourself to be moving if that's not what you need to do, or unless it's really what you need to be doing. But it is the time to really start taking prepping seriously. Stop treating it like a hobby, like a fictional YouTube idea that you like to follow. If you have ever had a reason to think that this may be a serious time for me to really start being concerned about stuff, I would urge you to, at least as a mental exercise, see this as that time and start really taking it seriously. And with that being in mind, tell me how bad you think it's going to get, in all seriousness, with your analysis and what that means for you. I'm sort of sick of people saying that we're going to have a civil war, but they're willing to live in the city. If there's going to be a civil war, you cannot be in a city unless you have a viable plan that you can tell me about why you living in a city is going to work out, and how you can protect against all of the wild card factors that's going to happen. And some of you might. I have some people who I think may know what they're going to be doing in that situation. But I sort of do get tired of people who go, it's going to be a civil war, who reveal that they don't have enough food or the ability to produce food, or know what it's going to mean for them if there's a civil war going on. But I do want to hear what you guys think, and what you think is going to happen and what that really means for you and what you really need to be doing, because we YouTube channels can sit up here and tell you what we think, but in reality, for many of us, it's either just our own personal anecdotal experience or things that we're regurgitating you, and that's the regurgitating back to you. That's actually a lot of channels, another detrimental fact, and a lot of channels admit it. I'm willing to whenever it's the case. Sometimes I collate information for you, but you can tell whenever it's something that I've figured out or something that I'm telling you from long-earned experience, and I'll make sure to let you know that because I want my kudos. But a lot of channels are out here just half-assing it, sort of, punting the ball out there and seeing what people think, just sort of collating opinions of other people and saying what sounds good. And we're talking about things that are going to get people killed if they're wrong about it. So there's no excuse for just sort of half-assing it, just sort of wanting to be a YouTube channel, and this is what you're going to talk about. You need to realize that if people are going to listen to you and you're wrong, they die. And I hope that there is some way for people to be held accountable in the afterlife for failing to give people the proper information when what we're talking about has such high stakes. So that's why we get serious about it. It's not about being jealous. I really don't care about how big my channel gets. The whole point for any serious prepper channel is, at the most selfish level, trying to help other people so you have less, starving mouths out in the crowd trying to get at you. And at the most, righteous level, an actual urge to want to help other people, an actual realization that there's going to be hard times and that you want to do something to alleviate that, because there's not going to be a lot that you can do in the moment. So those are the two reasons that a noble prepper channel is created, and the vast majority of them do not have that motive. They are here because this is what they're doing. Maybe it's purely business motivated, maybe it's attention motivated, whatever. But that's how you should be discerning which channels you should be watching, how valuable their information is, how seriously they're taking this, and whether or not it's all a game or some kind of sport for them, Anyways, pardon the rant. I'm going to catch up on you guys for a moment because I do value my chat. That's better. Eating kimchi. Yep. I need to eat more fermented foods. Vodka counts, right? And I agree with your comment earlier, Tony. Bugging in should always be the option. Obviously, I mean, if you're going to go run away from your home at the nearest sign of every threat, then you should have done it multiple times if you've been prepping for 5 or 10 years. I mean, there's been enough threats where if you're a serious prepper and you're really just going to run away every time that you're actually worried something might happen, I wonder how many times you've done it already. So yes, of course. Oh, look, Steve's in here. Hello, Courser trainers. Again, how many kids do you have? You put a few down every day. I mean, you got to run out eventually. But one should always plan to be safe in their home in as many situations as possible. Or at least to know where they are going to be. I mean, I rent my home, so I can't do nearly as much as I'd like to do to prepare. And if the situation gets serious enough, then there are fallback locations that are fully ready to go. But you need to know what that means for you and what you need to do to be ready for that. And for missioning, bug out locations, if you will, which really amount to very close family or friends who we're co-reliant with. Even then, I mean, we don't want to live together, or else we would be building a compound already. We clearly want to live in our houses. So we're clearly going to want to do that for as long as possible until it becomes either unsustainable or so inefficient that we just need to change our life considerations. But that's always the case. I mean, to a certain degree, from a mentality perspective, there should never be SHTF. It should always just be that life became as hard as it used to be. We've been living in a very peaceful, very comfortable bubble for a long time. So if you want to deal with that SHTF without having a constant mental breakdown looming over you, you just got to roll with the punches when it does happen and say, all right, well, just like if my mortgage got doubled, I guess I'm moving. And perhaps I will have to cohabitate with more family than I used to have to. That's always been the consideration, and that may not change. So yes, you want to live as comfortably as you can in your lifestyle the way that you have it. Sometimes the world may choose differently for you. Tony, if I ever really make it as a YouTube channel, I'm going to be building a castle. And as I've told you, I'm going to own trebuchets. And yes, I want to build life-scale replica cows. Or maybe I'll just actually get, cows that died of natural causes. I want to trebuchet some cows someday. Not in a cruel, not in an animal cruelty kind of way, but I would actually like to get a full beef and trebuchet it. And I'd like some of you to be there. Just this moment between you guys. A little bit of buffering there. Looks like I might have had a little bit of buffering there. So SHTF brought up an interesting point about martial law and or civil war. And I really am not super concerned about civil war per se, but about just general anarchy and or confrontation in America. But yes, it is a concern. I don't necessarily see it going as cut and dry as just, oh, there's civil war or, oh, there's martial law. But I definitely am concerned about a general escalation of events, of reactionary thinking, nobody really getting ahead of what the situation is, and things, the situation just devolving, destabilizing. That's why I didn't really call the video Civil War in America or things going crazy. It's just less stable. There's going to be destabilization. I don't necessarily expect it to be something crazy like martial law or civil war, but somewhere along the spectrum. Anybody I have missed? Get Swolled. I have been increasing my physical fitness regimen. Definitely all the unrest has been a big motivator for being more fit. And it's something that I mean to talk about. If you're thinking about punching commies, you really need to be working out. So I'm catching up. I'm sorry if I miss any of your comments. I'm going to go back through the live chat and, catch everything and use it to inform maybe future videos by knowing what you guys are concerned about, stuff like that. So don't feel missed out because I will be rereading through everything. Do it on a Thursday. So if it kicks off, we want it on a Thursday. Oh, okay. Yep, that's a good thing to keep track of where resources are at given times around you. Yeah, I caught that too, Steve. Tony's very worried about size. Acer, hello, how you doing? How many combatants would it take to cover the U.S. with Scary people rampaging through cities, towns, and all rural areas? Well, the thing about rural areas is there's a lot of empty space. So if you're really trying to cover it, you're wasting a lot of warm bodies. How many combatants? It really depends on how safe they want to feel. They would need millions. How many people do you need to effectively affect change? Often just 3%. So under 100 million people, under probably 50 million people to really be able to affect change in America. I mean, really just a few million people can really change what's going on, as we see. I mean, it's the Joe info. Hello, how are you doing? I'm not sure that I recognize you, but thanks for dropping in. Heaven's Essentials, how you doing? Anybody I've not said hi to, say hi, because I think I'm getting down to the bottom. If you've made a comment that I haven't responded to, feel free to repeat it. I think I'm caught up. I'm going to try to stick there for a minute. So, you're going to start eating rye? Is that what you're saying, Ravens Flies? Oh yeah, Acer. I'm pretty confident that it would be a nightmare scenario for anybody trying to rampage America, especially because I know how many places there's not going to be any rampaging going on. Oh, look, Tony's one of those guys who started a sourdough starter during coronavirus. I'm just kidding. Tony's been on the bread bandwagon for a long time. He's like the bread OG. And that's true, Reed. But it wouldn't be a rampage. It would be a siege. And, you know, most rural areas are not self-sustainable. You know, they don't have enough agriculture and just general ability to even feed themselves or sustain for a long period of time without outside supply. You definitely want to know what the agriculture or, you know, what the food production to population ratio is of your area, because if you live in a densely populated city in rural farmland, there's not enough farmland near you to provide for all of those people, even if they're able to work it, which they won't be able to as efficiently. And you probably need fertilizers and everything else. So it's very important to know, you know, I mean, the ideal prepping location has a lot of people who are already providing a lot of food, a lot of sustenance farmers, essentially, people who the majority of their diet comes from things they themselves grow, and where the abundance of that is a good chunk of what other people are eating. And you're a place that has maybe not net export of calories, but much better ratio than some places have, because a lot of places are not only food deserts in the grocery sense, but even as an agricultural area, you know, if you're growing the wrong thing, you're completely incapable of sustaining even your own town. Yeah, I figured. I know you've been doing sourdough for a long time, Tony. My mom started one during the pandemic, but hey, it's a good thing. Hello, Mr. Zardos. I'm not sure I recognize the name, but thanks for dropping in. And I do agree. There will never be an actual moment where things pop off. There will never be the shot heard around the world. I've seen so many things where I go, is this the world we're in? Is this acceptable? Are we, you know, we see people who are willing to go to great lengths to do things that are terrorism, that are sedition, that are the height of criminal acts. I mean, the fact that people can burn down huge chunks of cities, the fact that law and order can just fall apart in America would be unthinkable at multiple different times in America's past. I mean, that is not what most of us see America as being. We see it as being a very stable place, a place where these, where we figured a lot of stuff out. And as soon as you take your hands off the wheel, apparently it all just falls apart as long as there's somebody there to take advantage of it. And that's where we're at. And that's a lot of people on all sides. I mean, sides in the term of partisanship. It's just we are at a point where we've never been before, where a lot of things that we would have said may not be impossible, but would not be acceptable, are acceptable now, where things are very topsy-turvy. So, no, I don't think that there will be a moment where enough people go, nope, this is unacceptable. Time to start doing crazy shit to stop it. And I think as long as the people on the other side take an inch and then give back half an inch and take an inch and give back half an inch, as long as the other side, and by the other side, I mean people who are against liberty and individual freedom, which is really what it all comes down to. America is about liberty and individual freedom, whatever else you want to say that it's about. The idea is that we are all our own king, and we're all united to create something better. But as soon as you start trying to tell people what to do beyond what has been set as what's fair to tell people what to do, you've broken it. And that is what we see, a fight against we should be able to tell people what to do, and you should not be able to tell people what to do. That's what it is, liberty and the lack of liberty. 1 second after, I haven't actually read it, but I feel like I have, because it's been so thoroughly quoted and gone through and summarized for me. Yeah, the vast majority of people did not fight in the Revolutionary War. Read, in fact, I've heard that less than 15% of America, or close to 15% of America was actively actually involved, even to the degree of pamphleting or promoting or supporting it in any way. The vast majority of the population, and this is hard to imagine in a world so interconnected today, but if you lived in a state that wasn't actively sending, wagon loads of wheat to the battlefront to support it, you had nothing to do with the damn thing. You might have one representative over somewhere in whatever place trying to fight against the Civil War or for it, but or the Revolutionary War. I'm sorry, but even Civil War. I mean, the vast majority of the heavy action, the combat, even the people who were providing food and uniforms for those people, vast majority of people had no idea of it or had some idea of what was going on. But revolutionary change is almost always caused by extremely vocal, extremely violent small groups, whether it's for good or bad. And to a certain degree, that's what we need to recognize. You don't need riots going on in your street for someone to do drive-by shootings. You don't need a Civil War battle going on in the field outside of your town for violent crime and homicide to be spiking across America, in some places more than 2 times the amount that it was last year. I mean, at what point do we decide America is not what it was and there is some state of conflict, whether it's only social or if to some degree it's actually physical? When do we acknowledge that, or will we ever be allowed to? To a certain degree, I feel like a lot of the social unrest will peter itself out. But on the other hand, I do doubt that. I mean, I see a lot of very passionate people who are saying things that they can't really come back from. So to a certain degree, I think that Frankenstein's monster has been woken up, and it's going to go around smashing stuff, and it's going to be the creator just as much as the enemy. And I don't know that you can really put the Hulk back in Bruce Banner with this one. I think that it goes around smashing everything, and if that doesn't end up being the case, we have enough other issues that we're just looking at some really ugly destabilization. Shaw's Prospecting, how you doing? Good to see you drop in on a live stream. Population of the Revolutionary War versus modern. Very, very different. Yes, I imagine the Backwoods probably has it about right around 10 million Americans during the Revolutionary War, 370-ish million now. So rather a large increase. Exactly, Acer. And, you know, I mean, even just compare a town of 10,000 to a town of 50, 60, or 100,000. Candy bar? No. Nicotine. So even just the difference between how much food a town of 10,000 with heavy agriculture can produce for itself compared to a town that is largely concrete suburban or rural or urban, I mean, that is 50,000 people, very big difference. The amount of food that can maybe keep a town of 10,000 people from just outright starving won't even be a drop in the bucket for 50,000 people. It might keep some of them from starving, but whenever you multiply the amount of calories needed by 5, the math becomes very untenable very fast. So that's why it's very important to look at population density versus food production, export versus import, that kind of stuff. If you live in an area with 5,000 people and you produce 10% of the wheat in America or some other grain that you can readily produce, you know, process for yourself, you're sitting pretty, you know. But the vast majority of people, even who think that they live rural or in a small town, it's either mountainous, there's no arable land around them, or it's still too dense for the amount of food production that they're able to produce for whatever other reason, or they're producing something that they have no ability to readily produce on a small scale for themselves. Yeah, sorry about the buffer. It seems to happen a lot. That's why I was so excited about hopefully being able to do mobile live streams. That way I can use the network and not have to worry about my home connection here. But they changed the rules on the mobile live streaming to actual monetization and not just 1,000 subs. So we're waiting. Exactly, Liberty Garden. Violence is incidental to war. Everything else is maneuvering and logistics. Well, good to hear, Heaven's Essentials. Yeah, I have had a couple of link warnings here on my screen because whether it's my crappy laptop or my internet service provider deciding to throttle the stream, my usage a little bit, it does seem to be dropping below what YouTube wants for a stream. I believe it's something like that, Acer. The ratio of soldiers to support being about 1 to 10. It always takes, not only in modern times, but throughout all of history, it always takes far more people to support the army than it takes to actually fight. But even then, in revolutionary times, where it's an internal struggle, it is often a very small percentage of people that are doing it. Yep, one of my favorites, one of my absolute favorites, this one is Ace Perry Cider. I love pear ciders. Brought another one home. I'm not sure where I poked it. But yeah, I brought another one into my store today and got to try it out. Little side note, personal update. We'll drop off of the doom and gloom for a moment. I'm a store manager now. I've been promoted, I guess you could say, but I've completely taken over the store that I work at, the alcohol and smoke shop. So I'm the big guy. I do all the ordering, I do all the hiring, all the stuff. So it's pretty cool. I've always done management, but I've never actually been the manager and running the place. So it's a big step up for me and feels sort of cool. So a little bit of bragging, a little bit of personal update. But yeah, anyways, There's a lot of pear ciders in there. And it really is Heaven's Essentials, one of the best drinks. The tartness of the pear really sets off the sweetness of the cider. Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's nice. You know, I've always sort of had ideas about management and stuff, leadership, and it's nice to actually get to apply them and think that, you know, you always work as an employee, you work in places and you go, man, I just, you know, I feel like maybe I have ways that this could be done. So it's cool to get the opportunity, and it's a job that I enjoy. You know, there's a, you know, it's not stuff that is grueling for me. So I'd love to be doing gunsmithing, or not gunsmithing, but I have worked with guns in the past. I'd love to do that again, but this is pretty good. Yes, a pear cider is technically a perry. So this is one from over in Spokane, Washington. Wenatchee, Washington, out of Spokane, but pear up cider. So this is an actual perry. There's no apple juice in it. It's all pear juice. This one is the seasonal pumpkin. It's foamy like a sour beer. I'm not sure about it, but they make a wonderful pear watermelon. So it's a pear juice as a cider. So technically a perry with watermelon juice added. That's really good. Practical Outdoorist, how you doing? I don't think I've seen you for a little while. I think I recognize the name. Yes. Well, Reed, no, I'm not a landlord or anything like that. So don't treat me like I'm an enemy of the people. I'm not a rent seeker or you know, a white collar worker or anything scary and evil like this. I sleep with no pillows. No, the bed is actually a prop. I sleep just like a plank on the ground. No pallet, no nothing. Just staring straight up at the sky until I fall asleep. No, nothing like this. I mean, it's you know, it's not the most glorious job. It is. You could argue it's a convenience store, but we like to think of ourselves as a connoisseur's smoke shop, if you will. A cidery close by. I'd be curious if I know them. But yeah, it's probably a good idea. I mean, I actually have right over here. I brought it out of my closet because I bought it and then I got away from it and I didn't do it. But I have a cider brewing kit right over here, or just a brew kit right over here with everything I need to make start making cider. The thing is, you need to have some kind of fruit that you're capable of fermenting. So that's why one day I would love to have an apple orchard. Uncle Al, how you doing? Good to see you. Oh, please, where did I learn everything I know? From the Boy Scouts. That's it. If you're in the Boy Scouts, you will become a prepper just as good as me. That's not true. The Boy Scouts has completely fallen apart, so don't listen to that. Well, thank you, Shaw Suspecting. Watching out for the little guy like me. If you guys want to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And, you know, go yell it on the rooftops. Go knock on your neighbor's door and say, "Have you thought about prepping? Let me tell you about a channel." Don't do that. I don't want to make you seem crazy. Okay, Reed. Well, it's not pumpkin spice. I'm not really sure. Yep, it's literally pumpkin extract. Fermented pear juice, sodium metabisulfate, pumpkin extract, which is organic compatible alcohol, natural pumpkin pie flavor. So I'm curious how they render the pumpkin pie flavor, but it is not like a cheap pumpkin spice. It's more the kind of thing that makes you go, It's almost like they shook it inside of a pumpkin and then poured it. Yes, mead is a good option. I would love to have bees. Not only because they not guarantee, but having bees pollinates your crop for you. I mean, it's one of the best ways to make sure that you're not beholden to random bees coming by to make sure that your stuff gets pollinated. And then honey. I mean, mead is amazing. We carry a few meads actually, and they sell pretty well. And I wouldn't be able to drink it regularly, not modern mead, but it would be a great option. Now, personally, I love apples or the option of apples, because they double as a decent food source, not the best food source, but any apples you don't use turns into cider. Worm honey. Yeah, no, that's for plants. I'm sure that there's some. I'm sure if you tried hard enough, you could render some sugar out of them. I don't know. Ooh, Heavens has some pie pumpkins. None of my pumpkins, they're trying, but I think it's only a watermelon that's trying to create a fruit, and it's just too late for that guy. So, I think it is a joke read. Tony Palmetto Prepared's comment about warm alcohol, only in so much as I don't think you can really do that, but it's not a joke in so much as I really do have worms. That's right, I have worms. I have pet worms that I use for my compost. However, I am STD free, if anybody's curious. I appreciate it, Tony. I know you have no care for the Harry Potter series, but I see you. Compost cider. Yeah, I'm not going to try to cider it, but I can definitely produce some compost tea. The tapeworm diet, yes. I'll abstain from the tapeworm diet, thank you. But I think it works. All right, thanks for dropping in, Uncle Al. Appreciate you being here, and you have a good night. All right, we're almost an hour in. I don't want to talk politics, but this simple question, please keep it within 2 minutes. Where do you feel like the needle got moved with the debate? Not politically, as preppers. Do you feel like the debate led to people realizing how serious things are? And if so, do you think that that moves the needle towards peril or away from it? Again, I don't really want to get too much into the politics. I don't think that we have too much division here, and most people are pretty reasonable, but there were a couple points during the debate where I thought, man, regular people are sort of getting some things thrown in their face, because a lot of the stuff that was getting brought up is stuff that we see talked about in political commentary on YouTube, not on the regular mainstream media channels, but a lot of the topics that would concern a prepper that would sort of seem like they're a little deeper into the weeds, those were the meat and potatoes of the debate. And that's my main concern there. And that's the main thing that I'd like to be talking about here, rather than the politics of him versus him or whatever, because it was a dumpster fire. And I'm saying that completely apolitically, complete train wreck. I would like to have seen presidential debates in America go differently. And I think that that's partly the nature of debate, but I want to stay away from the back and forth of that. What I'm talking about was, do you as preppers feel like the topics that are becoming the norm in mainstream discussion are not the kind that would have been allowed to reach that kind of discussion in the past? because I feel like that's the case. I feel like regardless how you feel about any of the things, it's not things that would get brought up on the national stage. But nowadays, the fact that what we talk about here on YouTube, what commentators on the extremes of YouTube commentary talk about, the things that are pushed to the extreme because of the media stranglehold on conversation, the fact that those things are actually bubbling up into the public consciousness to the extent that they are the meat and potatoes of a debate, that things that it goes like that, does that mean something for you as preppers? Because it means something for me. There were multiple points where I said, I feel like this changes the needle as a prepper. You know, it moves the dial a little bit. So I'm curious what you guys think. In a purely non-political, what does it mean? I see Steve says, nope, just cemented the differences. And I actually really feel that. It's very hard for me to feel like it really pushed things in one way or another, other than it's more of a confirmation of what we knew to be true, that people are, they're dug in. You know, we're at a point where you have one side that says, this is the way things should be. And you have the other side that says, this is the way things need to be. And I think Steve at Corsair Trainers was actually pretty correct there, that not much of what was said or what has happened lately has really changed a lot of people's opinions. It just makes you go, yep, I'm right. I need to hunker down. So I agree with that. Palmetto Prepared simply says, I'm sick of taxes. And that is perhaps the most poignant comment I've seen so far. Remember, everybody, taxation is theft. And while we might agree to it because we're civil people, that doesn't mean that taxation is civil. Although, arguably, it's completely a civil matter. But let's move on from there. We don't like taxes. Reed sees the needle move more toward peril. People have so little faith in the election now that no matter what happens, we will see unrest. That was the point at which I was on the edge of my seat. I think that Trump navigated it very well and said what needed to be said, that you cannot trust an unfair election or a clearly fraught election. But the fact that any regular sheeple American that was watching said, wait a minute, are we talking about maybe this might be the year that this happens? Yeah, that got thrown out there. So rather than, arguably every other year where it's just been topic, debate issue, foreign affair issue, do you think that the election might not be honored this year? That's been aired on the national stage. Doesn't mean anything. And if it does or doesn't, discuss. I agree with Practical Outdoorist. Everything just reaffirms what we as preppers do and confirms that we need to get our shit together and do it now. If you're doing it right, it won't hurt you a year from now to have taken an actual and active concern in prepping right now. But a year from now, if things don't go well, you'll be very happy that you took things very seriously. Only when it was the Federal Reserve, all the middle class is in danger. That sort of sounds like I'm sick of taxes there, Mr. Zardos. I see ravens and flies. Doesn't matter if a win is by a little or a lot. People are going to be screaming about cheating either side. Yeah, and that's the main concern with the election. And I don't necessarily think that, some people go, the election is going to cause an SHTF. It's going to cause a civil war. I won't go that far, but I know that there are going to be a lot of very angry, very vocal, and probably violent people, maybe on both sides, that go, nope, that's not my guy. I know that it's illegal. It's fraud. It's a stolen election. There are going to be a lot of people on both sides who, if their guy loses, they will know with a certainty, whether they're right or not, that it is a stolen election. It really depends on how many of them, how vocal, and what they do before we know what the results of that will be. But that's one of the scariest things, is that we are past the point with a lot of people. A lot of people have passed their threshold for being reasoned with, and that's on both sides. I mean, the main thing that most of us can do is to be prepared for ourselves and to be rational in our discussion with people, to save who can be saved rationally and to save who can be saved practically. Common sense is gone. Civility is out the door. Interesting feelings. Going to the bar and getting a drink. This boat can't sink. All right, Steve, could I get clarification on going to the bar? Oh, okay, sorry. Let's just say that if 2020 was the Titanic, right now might be a good time to strap on the life jacket. All right, I get it now. Sarcasm. I am curious, Steve, are you serious that you believe that America cannot destabilize, or are you being sarcastic that you know, of course the boat can sink? Because I am curious. I mean, I don't believe that there's anything special about America that saves it from a Marxist revolution. But I really hope that there is. I really hope that to a certain degree this can be turned into an oven self-cleaning cycle. And not too long from now, we'll end up with a patriotic constitutional America. Anyone else read about the retired BD captain in Houston that just swore out an affidavit to Secretary of State in Texas regarding Uncle Joe's state campaign manager? I've not heard about that, but I would love to be enlightened. Unsolicited ballots are the linchpin of a contested election. Yeah, let's hear that story, Backwoods. In a method that has been used in similar fashion in the past. Agreed on the ballots. I often call Texas my country. I grew up in Houston and Dallas, or Denton. I've not heard good things about Texas. And I have in the past said that Idaho is what Texas used to be. People will disagree with that, but the part of Idaho that I live in is what Texas is rumored to have been. So, at least in my part of the neck of the woods, things feel like what Texas is, you know, the idea of Texas. And it sounds like Austin has had a very negative effect on the rest of the state since I was there. That's what I figured, Steve. But people have their own opinions. I mean, I wouldn't blame a person for saying, nope, America is too strong for this to tear it apart. And I hope that. I mean, honestly, I really hope that in a year we will look back and go, where did Antifa go? They disappeared back into their dorm rooms. Where did this all go? But I think we know that there are enough people who want to take away personal liberty. And to me, I don't need partisanship. I don't need left versus right. You can be on the left if you want, and you can be on the right if you want, as long as you're okay with personal liberty. As long as you can see your little part of the spectrum, and as long as it doesn't have to do with what I want to do, and as long as there aren't people infringing on other people's basic rights. I mean, that was the whole point. Do what you want. If these things are protected, go. And in so much as anybody on either side of the spectrum, me as a prepper, I mean, prepping is about survival. Survival is the basic necessity of life. You survive for yourself, you survive for your progeny, or the next generation. Liberty is necessary for that. Personal determination is necessary for that. My enemy are people who are against liberty and self-determination. I don't need partisanship. I don't need organization labels for that. I mean, the only label I really need is commie. That's my label. That's my inaccurate label for any person who opposes individual liberty and self-determination, which are the foundations of preparedness and survival. And that is why that's one of the most protected facets of life in our Constitution. Those are my feelings on that subject. I believe it, Backwoods. I would like to argue that the right is just as likely to harvest ballots or to do things that are unfair. I mean, I'd also really like to say, no, they're less likely to. They don't need to or whatever. Honestly, if anyone needs to right now, if anyone needs to feel like there's an existential threat to our country, it needs to be the right. If anyone has a reason to be out in the streets protesting in mass peacefully, it's the right. I mean, go to the Biden-Harris campaign website. I don't have it queued up here to share with you guys because it's all on my phone, but I screenshotted just the gun page of their website. It's a very long page to scroll through, and it is an end to gun rights. I mean, feel how you will about guns. I don't feel like they're, an individual's end-all be-all option, not like the prepping community does, but they are inherent to an individual's right to defend themselves. And not only that, completely put aside the gun debate about whether you feel like people need guns. It's an inherent right. I mean, that debate is inherent to the Constitution. Love it or don't, that's the framework of what we have. And so if you want to argue with that, what we're arguing about is that America needs to not be what it used to be. And that comes right back to individual liberties and self-determination. If a campaign opposes individual liberties, it's not for me. I don't care who it is, all right, good night, Practical Outdoors. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining in. Good to see you, and have a good night. I think I lost someone else up here, actually, that I failed to say goodbye to. Acer. We lost Acer. A good man. Hopefully, we'll see Acer again. All right, good night, Ravens and Flies. Good to see you. I'll catch you again sometime in the cybersphere. Oh, Moscow, Idaho. Yeah, that was. I don't know if you're gone already. Yeah, Moscow is a college town, and I really hope that the city or state does something to make it clear that that's not, very okay. But yeah, that's disgraceful, especially for a state that a lot of the people like to think of it as like to see it as hopefully constitutional, as that being. Yeah, no, it pissed me off. It pissed a lot of Idahoans off, believe me. It is definitely one of our few college towns that you could argue would lean that way. But no, that is absolutely an infringement. I mean, as far as I'm aware, the woman is asthmatic and had a medical exception, and that didn't even become part of the conversation. I'd really like to think that was just a personality problem, a character problem on the part of the officer involved in that situation. Because believe me, the northern counties have been extremely anti-lockdown. But yeah, no, that was not great. Best guess, there are about 2 to 3 times as many illegal guns as legally owned ones. Take one away, 3 more the next day you don't know about. And that's true. In places where it's pretty much, normal average gun laws, the majority of guns are bought through, actual commercial purchases, which means a full background check is performed. That gun is registered to them, not only at the point of purchase, but the register system, the national background check system, actually has a digital record, not necessarily that the gun was purchased at that time, but that a background check was done for the serial number of that gun. I'm not actually sure that the retailer goes and performs an affirmative action to make sure that the background check system is aware that that purchase was finalized. But I do know that retailers will provide the list of serial numbers when asked. So the vast majority of guns that are purchased by regular Americans who have no illegal purpose for it, is 4 out of 5 guns are registered at the time of sale. So when you don't illegalize guns, the vast majority of law-abiding citizens always purchase them in a registered fashion. So without gun laws, you already have 4 out of 5 registering their guns willingly. It's only criminals and the occasional person who purchases them through a legal, non-registered fashion that actually has that 1 out of 5 guns that are not registered. So it's silly when you illegalize anything, drugs, guns, prostitution, whatever. You lose the ability to control that thing because you push it into the black market and out of your realm of influence. So whatever the argument on criminalization of a thing is, there's some spectrum that you need to realize you lose control of something the more that you push it into the criminal realm. All right, Reed, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate your input and stuff. You have yourself a good night. Probably won't be going too long here, as I've more or less strayed from the live stream topic, and I don't like doing that for too long. Interesting. I'm not sure the website that we're talking about, so I'll have to catch up whenever I review the chat. One of the biggest reasons gun control always fails, they cannot deal with the unknown guns. Exactly. Just make a legal system by which the vast majority of people are willing to have registered guns. You very quickly narrow down all of the illegal guns to just the violent crime. Get rid of the violent crime, as we already have to do, and you're set. What about the gun show loop? You mean the gun show loop, which is vastly populated by legal retailers who are legally required to follow the background check system? Yeah. I don't know about a loophole there. If you're talking about where close family and certain friends are legally allowed to transfer a gun as long as they're willing to provide a record of that when asked, that's different. Well, and that's true, Ravens and Flies. Legally, legally in most places, it is allowed that you can go, hey, do you want this gun? Yes. Do you want $150 for that piece of crap gun? Yes. We have performed a trade. It is an item. You've traded it. Gun show loops, my favorite cereal. I like that. No. I know you're being sarcastic, Liberty Garden. Sorry. I'm sorry if that didn't come across that I was also being asinine. But no, it is. I just tend to respond with why, even if you're being sarcastic, that thing is not true. Just in case anyone's listening who doesn't understand it. It's just, it is. It's dumb whenever something is being repeated so often when it's so obviously debunkable that you will actually be sarcastic about it. Freedom-loving, law-abiding citizen. Hello, Patriot. Sorry if you've been chatting, I didn't notice, but good to see you. The existence of a law that restricts freedom makes one's freedom restricted or a criminal. Yep. Reductio ad absurdum. I know what that means, but to which are you referring there, Tony, about reductio ad absurdum? Well, no, Ravens and Flies, because that's a straw man purchase, and that is illegal. To purchase a firearm with the intent of transferring it to someone else, that's illegal. Now, it's not illegal to own a gun, and at some indeterminate future point, you have a buddy who goes, damn, I really want that gun, and you choose to sell it to him. But if it can be proven that you had intent to do that at the time of purchase, that's a crime. I might not argue that that should be a crime. I would argue instead that there should be no threshold to the other person just going and buying that gun. But technically, I would argue that the gun show loophole, when it's portrayed to people who disagree with the concept, is portrayed as if you are at a gun show, you don't have to perform a background check to purchase the weapon. And in some really rural gun shows where they're not vendors, where they allow just a dude with a bunch of guns to show up and show them off, it is possible that a person might sell a gun because they are not a registered retailer of firearms and therefore actually legally required to do the whole 9 yards. There have been instances, and are still instances, where a person can privately purchase a gun legally at a gun show. The vast majority of gun shows very clearly restrict this practice. They say that if you are here, you're going to be a retailer licensed to sell guns, and therefore every gun you sell will be done, registered, and through the background check system. So most people, when they hear gun show loophole, they believe that if you walk into a gun show, you can just throw cash around and grab guns. That is not the case. But I would argue that what you're describing is a straw man purchase and not exactly what is being detailed by gun show loophole, although many people conflate the two because they believe that both go on, that a person will go into a gun show and purchase a gun without a background check and then may or may not illegally transfer it to a felon or an underage person or whomever. Oh, okay. Yes, I agree, Tony. That is what I was doing, carrying sarcasm enough. Yeah, repeating the sarcasm in a more absurd way just to exemplify why it's crazy. Yep. The shots came from a fully semi-automatic assault rifle, a fully automatic semi-auto assault rifle. It does hurt. But if you ever watch Jesse Malecki, the fastest shooter in the world, that man can shoot a semi-full auto rifle. McCulloch, Jerry McCulloch, I forget his name. You guys know who I'm talking about. That guy can shoot in full semi-auto. McCulloch? Okay, yeah, Jerry McCulloch, I'm pretty sure. I can't decide what to drink next. Should it be a pear cider, a different pear cider, or bourbon? Mitch? Jerry McCulloch. When am I going to grow the beard back? I actually, when I cut this down this time around, I considered that I might turn it into the beard. When it's the chin strap, it goes down a little bit. When it's the beard, it comes up a little bit. Is it Mitch? It's going to make me pull out my phone and look this shit up. Bourbon? That's sort of what I'm thinking. It's Jerry McCulloch. A different pear cider. Haven't shaved since February. Nice, Ravens and Flies. I like it. Oh, phonetically. Mitch you. See, I'm just so used to Tony actually insulting me and calling me things like you lackey, things like that, that's just what I assumed he was saying. Like, it's Mitch, you lackey. He's a very mean guy. A different pear cider? All right, I'll get the one that I brought into the store today. It's actually an item that I just received off the truck fresh today and put in the system. Whiter ciders. Apple cider with pear. And you know what? Because I'm a man of the people, and I don't like to disappoint everyone, and because this goes pretty good, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yep. Good eye, Raven. Got the bullet bourbon going on. It is good stuff. I cannot argue. It is always a very safe choice when you can't decide. I'm not much of one for cold drinks, Heaven's Essentials. I prefer almost everything room temperature. That's all right. If Tony wasn't insulting me, I would know that he stopped liking me. As any good friendship should be. And I fully agree with you, Backwoods Law. There are not a lot of situations where I'd like full auto. Yeah. I've shot a variety of the popular models of full auto weapons, and in almost every situation, I would rather have selective or maybe burst fire for shot placement reasons. I mean, you really you do waste 90% of bullets. You hit with the first one, and you might hit with the fifth and sixth with most of them, unless you're really prepared. Full auto was fun till you had to clean up the brass. That's very true. I don't think we were too worried about the brass when we went shooting. We were shooting a lot of ammunition, so I don't think that was going to happen that particular day. And it was a 4th of July shoot, a couple of them, so we weren't too worried about it. Final protective fire is the only situation it does anything for you. It's always sideways at that point. It zips in the wire. Only on Wednesdays. No, it's true. As far as I can tell, unless Tony is a very skilled CIA agent acting as a plant, which I'm not willing to rule out for any of you guys. Let's just be clear right now. He does seem like a good guy. Hello, Drops Family Garden. Haven't seen you for a minute. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, no, well, for one thing, I don't believe that it's outside the skill level of most people to be able to provide shot placement fast enough to be scary effective in a firefight, if you will. And anybody who has any ability to gain accuracy with shot placement and to do that reliably are far better off in single fire than full automatic. Now, don't take it personally, Ravens and Flies. I don't think you look like a Fed. But maybe they're being real sly about who they recruit nowadays. You never know. And it's always good to do your due diligence. Says my 300 Magnum. Tony's a ficus. Yep. I'm more of an aloe vera or a sunflower myself. If I had to identify as some kind of potted plan, but yeah, that's just winging it. You know, I don't like to assume people's, you know, phylogenetic tree, if you will, but anybody getting some buffering? Looks like I'm getting a little bit of buffering. Well, shoot. That sometimes happens when we start talking about good bourbon. I've always been a distant observer fan of the AR-10. I'd really like to own one soon. Send me some Mabel. Lost everyone but PP now. Well, hopefully the stream will pick up a little better for now. So, what is everybody doing for prepping right now? What is your current focus on whatever it is that is going to be helping you the thing? What is your current direction of attack, if you will? Bought an M1A instead of an AR-10. That is a good little piece of machinery there, Tony. I can approve of the M1A. It is a spendy little bit there. What state has the most lenient pew-pew laws? I don't know about most lenient. I've heard it said that Missouri actually has some of the most lenient, but apparently that does not count in St. Louis. AT&T, reach out and touch someone. Reach out and touch base. You got some whiskey, but not bourbon. Why is that? I'm sorry, but only a couple scotches have anything on bourbon. And I haven't met a sour mash that I really like. A Grand and an old 30 cal carbine. I like it. I like it. I can approve. So you've got a gun with an actual clip. So when they say that guns shouldn't have 30 round clips, I mean, you don't have a 30 round clip, but you have a clip. So, oh, you ran out. All right, that's acceptable. I do have whiskeys that are not bourbon for emergency preparedness because I can't afford to stock the stuff that I drink. I probably can't afford the stuff that I do drink, but I'm going to buy it anyways. Brandies can be good. So, yes, I hesitate to say that Idaho has some of the most relaxed laws, but Idaho is described as good as constitutional carry. So while the literature isn't the literature that's often used in constitutional carry states, it's as good as, because it more or less equates to if you are eligible for the concealed carry license in this state and are a resident, you do not need it. It's pretty lax here, and the enforcement, especially in the, you know, more Idaho parts of Idaho, definitely is on the side of being friendly towards gun ownership. Well, Tony, what would you consider to be a good brandy? Cuddy Sark. I can get behind Cuddy Sark. Oh, E&J. Yeah, no. I don't think I've enjoyed that when I've tried it. As for whiskeys, Knob Creek is my go-to. That's my winner. Bullet. I recently went through a bottle of Monkey Shoulder Scotch. That was incredibly smooth. I will be buying more of that when I can afford it. So Monkey Shoulder, very good. If you haven't tried it, you like Scotch. Yeah. But Knob's my go-to. That one and Bullet. Those are my three current winners right now. I hear you there, Liberty Garden. It hurts my soul every time I spend money on an expensive whiskey, but it also nourishes my soul more. Yeah, I'd really hear you there, Patriot. I will be working in... Oh, I'm fine. But I have been burning the candle on both ends, so it feels later than it is. Osbach? German brandy, huh? That sounds interesting. I didn't know they were known for their brandy. That is a brand of brandy. I might have to try that sometime. Never been huge on brandy, but it is better than other liquors. Yeah, I do like Scotch, but I agree. There's not a... It's the one for me. All right. Well, good night, Patriot. Thanks for dropping in, and hope you have a good evening and a good day at work tomorrow. Yeah, the Monkey Shoulder was pretty good. I actually, I was more or less gifted it myself. And yes, it was a nice bottle to get for more or less free. Yep. Wasn't exactly free, but preserving fruits in brandy seems like a pretty good option. I like it. I mean, I guess you get the calories out of alcoholically preserved fruit, but seems like a trade-off, but a trade-off that I'm willing to make. In winter, I buy a Hennessy bottle. In winter, I buy a handful of whiskey singles because they go inside of coat jackets really well. And you just don't want to get stuck out in a couple feet of snow without a single of whiskey with you. It just seems like a good idea. Care about the price, just drink what I like. I do care about the price just because it's hard to spend 33% more on something that will do the same job as something that spends less. But I see whiskey as a splurge item. It's a personal luxury. So if you're going to do it, might as well do it well. If you can't afford to do it, don't do it at all. Don't need to make jelly or jam. No canning required. That's very true. Just drop fruit in the alcohol, close it, and you're good. If you're going to freeze, may as well be drunk. I mean, I wouldn't be drinking alcohol if I actually was in a potentially life-threatening situation, because that's not a good idea. But if you know you're not going to die out in the snow, this is dropping fruit in alcohol. Oh yeah, ravens and flies. Thanks for hanging out still, by the way. I know you said you were getting going, but here you are. Appreciate it. No, even if I wasn't drinking or smoking, still be prepping booze and cigarettes. I don't smoke tobacco. I occasionally have a cigar, or I've got a little bit of Cavendish, black Cavendish for my pipe, but I still purchase the stuff. I still have cigarettes. I purchase them occasionally and stack them because, yes, in the land of no nicotine, the cigarette man is king. Yeah, I can believe that. Fruit turns a cheap bottle of rum into something great. Yeah, I mean, it's just the alcohol that's in there, so add some good stuff and it gets better. Oh, yeah, cigarettes and booze are currency. Anybody who's ever been poor realizes it. Anybody who's addicted to anything realizes that. I mean, we all know that a lot of people will sacrifice healthcare, food, basic necessities for drugs. You don't exactly want to take advantage of that in an SHTF situation, but when it comes to recognizing what you can invest in to gain the most value in the future, there's really not much that you can do better than cigarettes and stuff like that, because there's always going to be enough people nearby that want that you'll be able to get rid of it for a good value. Well, yeah, food over drugs, but while food has the highest value when it is the most necessary thing, as soon as it becomes, if not commonplace, then common enough, it loses a lot of value. When there's enough food, I wouldn't say it loses value because it maintains value, but as soon as people do have enough food, the next most valuable thing are vices. And they become astronomically more valuable once a person has enough bare necessities. So, yes, I wouldn't say that people will buy cigarettes. I mean, people will buy cigarettes even if there's no food. People especially want cigarettes if there's no food. So, yes, if there's no food, you'll be able to trade your cigarettes. But if there is food, immediately people go, all right, I have what I need to survive. I want to feel okay. They will go for vices. And in that situation, they will be valued perhaps much higher than even the food was when it was, if not the only food available, among rare food. ATF exists because all three of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms double as currency. I believe it. It's essentially the same as the treasury. They're concerned about currency. Yeah, Tony, I did get my tobacco seeds, and not a single goddamn one of them germinated. I had to have planted at least 60 seeds, and I have not seen a single one of them appear. So I would like to think that it's just the seeds, but I'm more prone to thinking that it's just my climate. It is definitely supposed to grow here, especially the seeds that I grew are particularly northern latitude friendly. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't expensive. They were only like $3 or so or maybe $6 from Liberty Seeds. But yeah, I mean, I was throwing them. I was just throwing them in buckets. I was burying them at every single depth of soil that I could imagine. I haven't seen a single sprout. So I actually, it probably is the pH. I planted it in every single type of soil that I have. I have soils of various different compositions, but tobacco is just, yeah, it's notoriously, as some of you are saying, notoriously difficult to grow properly. So I understand where you're coming from there, Liberty Garden. I've been told if you get the right ones, like the one that I got, it is prone to working in this kind of climate. But yeah, I mean, you're correct. It is a humid, mild climate, except when it tends towards cold. So yeah, I've more or less. I mean, and this year really sucked. I didn't have a good time to plant anything. In the early planting season, everything fluctuated between cold and foggy and just scorching. So I never knew when to plant it and how the planting would affect the eventual germination. So anything that liked the cold, I've done really well. Kale, uh, various other leafing plants and stuff like that. But when it comes to vegetables, curcumins, just not good. And that's the other thing is spinach and peas. Yep, you caught me. I've been pretty positive that even if I got good tobacco, I would not be able to cure it properly because yes, the humidity and the temperature fluctuates so much here that you'll start the day off cold and wet and end up hot and dry. Are you really drop? I think I've known that in the past. I think you've mentioned it, but you're within very close of within an hour or two of me. I guarantee it. So, anybody's welcome to use this. Oops, messed that one up. ltaprepping@gmail.com. Anybody's welcome to email me, and anybody who lives near me is particularly welcome to email me because I am always interested in knowing who's near me. Mutual support is absolutely necessary. And if you're in the prepping community and you are averse to networking with people, you need to really rethink what you think is a threat to you. Yep, we're pretty much right in that area there, drop. Yeah, Tony, you have a lot of humidity, but we have this weird fluctuating humidity where the air is moist and the ground is warm, or the air is dry and the ground is wet. And so everything's just always in a complete state of fluctuating one way or the other. Must be a different channel than I'm thinking of, drop. I know that there are a couple with a name very similar to that. Okay. He's the one with the profile picture that's sort of like a bugler. Yeah, our windows only really sweat whenever it's particularly cold outside and you've got a lot of moisture producing heat going on inside, but generally speaking, it's usually coming from you because it's cold outside, but we do get a lot of really cold nights that turn into very moist mornings with a lot of really cold surfaces to condense onto. Silver. All right. Let's get into the silver. So about silver, do you guys prep silver and what kinds of quantities? I'm melting a bunch of scrap and a few coins down and pouring 1/8 ounce bars for possible use if the shit hits the fan. So my goal is to have a fat leather sack of silver bars. I have silver. I have not have a lot of silver. I accrue my silver when I get a paycheck where I feel like I have an extra 20, 30, 60 bucks to put towards it. I would not be purchasing silver right now. Our goal as a prepper is to purchase things efficiently and get the most value for our preps out of the dollars that we spend our time for now, or get through whatever purpose, whatever means, I should say. So right now, considering that silver is up 50% or 150%, I like to say, from when I was purchasing it a year or so ago, I'm not going to be spending 4 times as much of my man hours to accrue that bit of silver. I'm going to wait until it's down to where it was. Now, that being said, still haven't recuperated from buying silver in 2011 prices. That hurts, Liberty Garden. People will be saying that about 2020 here in the future. So Tony says the only issue you have to watch out for when melting your own is no one knows the purity but you. That is true. And that was one thing I was going to bring up. People will trade for ASCs or junk silver as they know the content. Yes. You pull out a bar and it's just like a, sort of slag piece of chunk of silver. They're going to go, well, I don't know what this is. They might have a loose understanding of how to verify that it is at least silver. And coincidentally, you are listening to a channel that has done a video on how to verify silver in the field. Let's see if we can bring that up. Because there are a few tests involving magnets, acid, and specific gravity by floating it in water that you can do to verify that it is at least mostly silver. Oh, look, I can actually search my own video and it'll pop up if I search the exact term that it is titled as, which is pretty cool because that's not always the case. So I'll link you guys a video that you can watch that will tell you, and yes, ravens and flies, the whole beard is there. In this video, I detail how a person can take a piece of silver and verify that it is at least mostly silver compared to mostly steel, mostly aluminum, or any other metal that is not very close in specific density to that metal. So yes, most people, if you go to a barter fair in the middle of SHTF and go, hey, look, I melted this down into silver, they're going to go, yeah, right, buddy, move along. And I don't say that to be offensive, ravens and flies, but yeah, I mean, you want to at least have some way to go to say to them, this is silver, here's how you can know. So that's why my video is both so that you can test other people and so that you can say, hey, look, here's how you know that it's silver. But yes, I mean, if that's the way that you're accruing silver, that's the way to do it. Now, personally, I have a lot of constitutional silver, dimes and quarters and stuff like that. And I see that in its natural state as valuable because most people who matter, if you will, have an awareness of what the value of that should be. We have some kind of idea of what I will trade a dime or a quarter for in different situations, depending on the loss of the dollar, the state of value of items and stuff. If something's worth a bullet, it might be worth a silver dime. I'm curious on your opinions on that kind of thing. But we know more or less what things have been worth in the past. So we have some idea of what a dime or a quarter or an actual silver ounce would be worth. So I prefer things that are somewhat regulated. Geiger bars. You know, Tony, I'm going to admit I'm not aware of what exactly a Geiger bar is. Is that simply a regulated bar or is that an actual brand? Sent me an email from Proton Mail. Perfect drops. I'll be double checking that here soon. Yes, rare earth magnets react with silver. Let's demonstrate. it's very unlikely that this will be very effective. But let's see what we can do. Bear with me. Silver ounce, rare earth magnet, and there you have it. Now, most metals which are used to fake a silver ounce will not do that. And if you use that in the specific gravity test that I share in my video, you will be able to verify out that the metals that are usually magnetic to the degree that silver is are much heavier than silver is. So silver is one of the most magnetic metals for how light it is compared to steel and other magnetic metals. So by using a magnet near silver, most metals that have a similar weight to density ratio will not be just as magnetic. They'll either be far more magnetic or not at all. Now that won't really work with constitutional silver, so dimes and quarters and stuff like that, because they're so the content of the silver is lower than 999. So silver is very weakly magnetic, so it needs to be almost pure to even have that level of effect. As you can see, it will not pick up a magnet, although I can feel in my hand how much it is lifting the magnet by doing this. So compared to steel, where it will just pick it up, silver is very weakly magnetic. So if this was a steel core but treated metal, it would still pick it up just as strongly as if it was this. So most metals that are capable of mimicking silver by weight will not work for this trick. And especially if you carry it in water and do the calculations that I share in that video, you're going to be able to figure it out. Yeah, I agree with you, Ravens and Flies. If you can verify, I mean, if you were trying to sell your silver to me and it was 90+% silver, I'd be able to more or less feel confident with my kinds of tests that I can perform to say that, yes, I believe that this is pure enough silver. I'm willing to buy it from you. Now, the vast majority of people will not be able to do this for themselves and may not trust you to show it to them. So that's something that needs to be thought about. Some Dramamine? Oh, Heaven's Essentials. Yeah. Sorry about the camera movement there, but sometimes you just got to do a little bit of a hands-on demonstration. Geiger is a German mint. Okay, that makes sense. There are a lot of preppers in Idaho here, Drop. There's a lot over in Washington too. I mean, Eastern Washington, the Spokane area, is a very, very rural and prepperish area, but especially North Idaho. I mean, I've been down some roads in North Idaho where I knew that there were preppers that might even, I mean, very, very possibly had guns trained on the car that was driving by their property, because I was so far out in the woods driving down a gravel road, not even gravel, but actual mountain rocks are what makes the road. Yeah, preppers have been moving into the Idaho northeast Spokane area for decades. So, yeah, there's a reason that we didn't have a hard time getting a prepper YouTube channel together, so, or group together. So yeah, I mean, if you live in this area, you have plenty of people that you can network with. Yeah, now I will make it clear. I don't know that a rod, like an actual cylinder made of silver, I don't know that it would actually have enough of a pull to give a visible effect. The fact that this coin's standing on edge, I have to get it almost touching it, but just barely, to be able to pull it away and make it tip over. So I'm not sure that with an actual cylinder or a bar or anything like that, that you'd be really able to demonstrate it unless you stand the bar on edge. It needs to be, it's not a very powerful force. So to really make the magnet trick work, you have to set it up so it's perfectly balanced, and you can demonstrate that you're able to tip that balance, because it really isn't much. Meteorites in Pittsburgh, huh? We were supposed to get the Northern Lights the other night here in Northern Idaho, but it just was too far south, I guess. All right. Thanks for dropping in, Tony. I'm about to cut it. It's been 2 hours, and I think it's about to start cutting into bedtime. So, yep. So we'll probably wrap it up here in the next 5 minutes. I appreciate you guys all being here, and I'd love to hear any topics that you'd like to talk about before we wrap it up. But other than that, it might be it. We'll crack the next one, chat for a couple minutes. But thanks for being here, Tony, and I will catch you later. Good night to you. Yep, thanks for being here, Liberty Garden. Appreciate talking to you. Good seeing you, and I hope to see you again here in the near future. I do believe that, the Chinese, I haven't really thought too much lately about the Chinese faking gold and silver, but I'm fully willing to believe it. And especially with things spiking so much now, there's too much incentive to fake that kind of stuff for anybody to assume that it'll not happen. Better not turn blue when you make colloidal silver. That's a thing that will happen. That's actually arguably why the word blue bloods exists, because back in the day, you kept things like milk and other readily spoiled items in silver pitchers and other containers, because the silver had an antimicrobial effect. And so you're more likely to begin getting more silver buildup in your system. And a lot of people believe that blue bloods are termed that way because they actually tended to have silver buildup under their skin, which does tend to look gray or blue, depending on how bad it is. Well, I'm sorry about the buffering, guys. Sometimes it does just happen. I'm fully willing to believe it's on my side. I have gotten a couple of warnings here, but sometimes it just happens. So, colloidal silver. I have heard about monatomic gold, or just colloidal gold. I've never heard that it's a particularly, that I don't think it's antimicrobial. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that colloidal silver or monatomic gold, or colloidal gold, monatomic gold, can be gold is one of the trace minerals that is highly beneficial to the human system. We actually rely on gold to a certain degree to fulfill certain functions. I think it's mostly passive. So you understand that lead is dangerous because your body recognizes it as various things, including calcium, and will replace lead into the place of things that it would normally use calcium or other things for. So a lot of things that are toxic aren't toxic because they're actively poisonous, but because they replace necessary things. And once they do that, it's dangerous for you. So lead is dangerous because it replaces necessary nutrients and then causes damage once it's in those places. I believe that gold is beneficial because it replaces things in a good way, which is not toxic to you. So monatomic gold is good because it's a trace mineral, which we don't get much of, which is very, very beneficial for you, which is different from colloidal silver in my understanding, because colloidal silver has a molecular effect, which is dangerous to microbes. It actually breaks apart their molecular structure. That's my understanding. Okay. I can believe that, ravens and flies, because gold is an extremely conductive mineral element, and so it makes sense that that it would promote synaptic function. So I don't know enough about it, but yeah, I believe that. Want to go with nano silver? Yeah. So when it comes to any atomic gold or colloidal gold, the smaller the molecule, the more effective it's going to be, because the larger the molecule, the more likely that your system is just going to pass it. It's just going to filter it out. Yeah, backwoods. That's more or less what I meant by my understanding of the antimicrobial action of colloidal silver, is that it actually, at a molecular level, removes elements out of the molecules of the protective film of viruses and microbes. And once that shell is broken, the microbe dies, or the viral body dies. So yes, basically at a molecular level, silver, it's not an oxidizer, but it's reactive to certain electrons, certain electron fields, and microbes happen to have a protective film where the electron field is readily reactive with silver. At least my understanding. Okay, so nano is different than colloidal. I was aware of that. I'm not aware of the extent to which it's different. But personally, I believe that colloidal or nano silver and gold are worth the money if you have the money to be spending on that kind of thing. I wouldn't go bankrupting myself or spending money that I needed for other things for it. But as a supplement, as a preventative measure, I think it's extremely valuable as a medicine or anything. Wayne, how you doing? Sorry you dropped in late, but we probably will be wrapping up pretty soon. I've been sipping a couple drinks and it's getting a little late for everybody. So fortunately, we're sort of chatting to wrap it up, but I appreciate you dropping in. I'm actually going to leave you guys for a minute and go use the little Boy Scout facilities. All right. Well, thanks for dropping in, Ravens and Flies. Good to chat with you, and I'll see you again in the future. Well, I'm glad that the fire didn't reach you there, Wayne. Glad to see you drop in. Now, poll question here. How many of you concealed carry in such a way that you have to remove it every time you go to the bathroom? And how many of you that concealed carry actually forget that you have your gun on you until nighttime and bedtime? Because I tell you what, I forget that I got that thing there. And it's nice because it's comfortable enough to be able to do that, but I'll get to like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night and be like, damn, why am I still freaking carrying this thing? I don't think it's a bad thing to carry on in the house. As ready can be, right? But whew, that's a weight off of your waist, let me tell you. Well, I'm glad you're good there, Wayne. We have fires around here that definitely blow a lot of smoke onto my town, but they've never gotten close enough to where I was worried about it. So I do not like it. A paracord loop to hang it on the coat hook. I like that. It really bugs me that you can't show a gun on live stream anymore. I don't know where I would want to put a paracord on this, though, to tell you the truth. It's just a very basic snub-nose revolver, so I really only have the wheel well or the cylinder frame, and I don't really want to put a paracord in either of those slots. I guess I'm just going to have to keep holding it in my left hand while I use the little Boy Scouts room. It doesn't bother you? You don't like the bullets pointing at the twig and berries? Well, you know what? I understand the feeling, but given that it's the gun that I have, I'm not too worried about a negligent discharge. So misfire, discharge, same words. Yeah, I'm really not worried about that particular one going off. If it was something different, I might, but it would be pretty difficult for anything to really make that thing accidentally go off. So I love appendix carry for a subcompact 357, but yeah, I mean, I don't know that I do. I don't know. I trust 1911s, so I probably would appendix a 1911 if it was comfortable enough. But man, I forget that that thing's even there. So as per paracord hanging off your gun, it depends on your holster. I'll use it to loop through the holster clip and hang it on the door. When carrying outside waistband, I set it on the TP holster. I like that. Yep. Now, if it's a belted holster, depending on the belt and depending on the pants, it will hold it up as long as you do your part. So I won't necessarily take a holstered outside the waistband gun off, but it's I might even take the belt off, re-loop the belt for the duration of the process. But yeah, I was just curious where you guys are at. A lot of people don't appendix or under the waistband carry. A lot of people do a concealed outside the waistband carry, but just curious. Yep, it's a thing. I'm curious. I'm always curious how many people carry inside the house or make a diligent effort to make sure that firearms are nearby, because I'm curious. I'm curious how many people are concerned about violence at home and how many people are diligent enough to be concerned against it. Full tank throwing knives. I only have the one full tang knife that I carry with me, but it is throwable. That is definitely true. All right, next question. How many of you carry knives? What knives or how many do you carry? And guns. What is your practical / violent daily carry? Yep, I'm there with you, Backwoods Law. I generally it's pretty much on me all the way through the whole day. Sometimes I'll go out in the garden and leave it sitting on a table nearby, but generally, especially lately, it's on me at all times. Depends on the day. I agree with you, Wayne. Yep. Yeah. Shaw's prospecting. I am weekdays, Monday through Friday, morning to 4 p.m. or much later than 4 p.m. depending on the day. But yep, I'll be there. That's good drops. Yeah. I mean, the main problem with people liking guns is that it makes them feel safe and it keeps them from being able to defend themselves without a gun. So it's very good that you have a level of confidence with personal hand-to-hand combat, if you will. ZT350ZS inside left waistband, or right left, inside the right left waistband. I'm sorry, Backwoods. I know you have a meaning, but what is the right left waistband? Oh, that's a good little knife. The Zero Tolerance 350ZS. I don't mind that. I'm a full 10 guy. It's either a straight blade or a folding razor for precision. I apologize to everyone who I am sure that this will offend, but a steel blade should be a fixed blade. A folding blade should be for the most precision possible. This is because we're doing something delicate. This is because we're doing something serious. I'm sorry if I have triggered anybody, and I don't mean to say that in a disparaging fashion, but knives are knives. Razors are razors. That is my stance. Pistol crossbow, regular crossbow, etc. Wayne, sometimes I carry a single stag 9, sometimes it's full size 40-45 in Arizona. 1911 open carried. God bless America. Right left waistband, the right inside waistband. That's what I interpreted that as. I just like to clarify for the sake of the English language, but I knew what you mean. Change my daily carry to the situation. That reveals a level of comfortability with each weapon that most people don't have. So I have a 9, but no ammo at the moment. But no ammo. Well, Shaw, if you come in tomorrow, let's talk about let's talk about local ammo, because there is local ammo in our area. So I was thinking ahead and typing slow, Backwoods. Yeah. A 410 in case people rushed in my door, and 45 long rifle to back it up. I like it. I like the 410. obviously. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge proponent of the 12 gauge. But 410 is a great option if that's what you feel is the great option for you, or if that's what you have. And I love the 45 long Colt. So Cricket, I like Cricket. If you have a really high quality folding knife and you're willing to pay for that high quality, they can bridge the gap for a fixed blade. I won't deny that some folder blades are durable enough and good enough to fill the gap for a straight blade. But personally, I really like that chunk of steel. Oh, the Judge? Okay, you're talking about a handgun. I don't mind the Judge. Yeah. When it comes to a long rifle shotgun, 12 gauge. You know, you can get lighter 12 gauge rounds that most people should be able to handle. I love the 12 gauge. The G21. If it's dress up, might go single stack 9. Yep. Yeah, grip angle, Wayne, is a huge part of comfortability with the gun. Before anything else, I mean, one of the main differences between my 357 revolver and 1911 is grip angle. I mean, one of them's curved and ergonomic, one of them's 85 degrees or so. Full tang on the oh shit gear. Yep, I hear you. I mean, so this is my daily carry. It's an $8 Walmart Ozark Trail blade because if I'm going to use it every single day, why spend more than $8 on it? $5 razor blade. I make them last for years at a time. So between the two of them, $13. I get about 3 years out of each one. And the oh shit knife is a couple inches longer and a little bit more serious. So for me, I like the solid steel. I like just reliability. But yes, when it comes to oh shit stuff, it gets a little more serious. My knives are called Make Me Bad, Better Run. I like it. Yeah, no, I mean, I like the Judge. Some people will naysay it. I've never really had a problem with it. So, personally, I love shotguns. So, anytime I think of a shotgun shell, I think of a shotgun. But you know what? If you got a pistol that'll shoot them, do it. Yeah, no, I didn't used to love the 1911. I've always loved the 1911, but for myself, the reason I went with the 357 is just because at the time it felt like it suited me really well. Since I've gotten a little older and a little bit, you know, I filled out my frame a little bit since, you know, when I first started shooting. I really like 1911s lately. The 1911 just has that 1911 feel. Five rounds, 410 in the first three for crowd control, and 245 long Colts for finishing the job. Yep, that's pretty much how I load out the shotgun. The first three are, well, the one and the two is buckshot. The next three are buckshot. The next three are slugs. I need to verify just how much my loadout is inside the gun because my current shotgun, I'm not as completely comfortable with or intimate with as I was with the one before it. So, got to make sure it's 7. Yeah, 45 is incredibly common, and 1911 is just a great gun. if you have one and you don't have one that you're much more confident with, the 1911 is just one of the best models that there is. Well, folks, I think I might call it. It's been a little longer. I love whenever they stretch out, but let's talk about guns for a minute. We don't want to wrap up the gun conversation too fast. But yeah, let's talk about our loadouts. Wayne's been shooting 1911s a lot more lately because 45 is common. Drops 300 is 1913. Four in the tube, double-aught, 9 pellet flight control in the side saddle, and slugs in the butt. Good night, Shaw's Prospecting. I'm not sure if you go public with your name, so Shaw, thank you for being here. I'll catch you on the real side of life. 10 rounds of buck in the tube, 4 rounds of DGS slugs in the shoulder stock and cruiser, ready with another double-aught buck. Yeah, no, I really like half or just under half as double-aught buck because it's not so much as crowd control, but slugs are just, they're mean. I mean, if I got to shoot somebody, I want to give them a couple double-aught bucks to think about what they're doing. Just really think about it. And then if they really want to keep going, we got close to 2,000 pounds of foot-pounds of pressure coming at them. I mean, slugs just seem like a little aggressive. You got to shoot a guy, give him the double-aught buck. Let him think about it. Slugs. Slugs are for runners. Yeah. Slugs are for when you really need to reach out and touch someone. So yeah, if I'm really feeling nice, I might start with the 9 pellet, move on to the double butt, go on to the slugs. But when I put a slug in something, I expect it to hush up really fast. All right. I might expect a hog or a bear or something like that to take a slug and think about continuing the conversation. But yeah, once we get the slugs, it needs to be pretty close to done. I like flight control. It actually is a very good round. Yeah. So I'll go for those. They're a little more expensive, but yeah, especially if you get those wadding error slugs, you know, they are flight control rounds. Sometimes they get that buffering issue, and you can get them for even cheaper than most normal rounds. I love those. Quadruple-aught buck. Yep. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go with quadruple-aught buck inside the house. I picked up some of those in the past just off the shelf. They're not very common, but yeah, 4-aught is, I think the ones that I bought actually said bear load. You know, I mean, that's when you know. Good point, Wayne. The shotgun will be used in the house, and if it spills outside, we're going a little heavier on our projectiles. 300 will take down the bear. All right, we're going to figure it out, guys. Foot-pounds of force of a 300. All right, 300 Win Mag, foot-pounds of force, 4,100. $2,363 for a slug. So 300 Win Mag definitely has the slug beat out by a margin of about 40%. Triple up buck. Diameter. Triple up buck is 9.1 millimeter diameter. I am not up to date on my millimeter to caliber conversions. You'll have to bear with me here for a second. I guess 9 should be pretty common, but you know what? I'm going to offload that to Google. So 9 millimeter diameter is comparable to that 355. So yes, triple aught buck is roughly the diameter of the 357 projectile. See, Wayne knew. Yeah. Well, Drop, that's one of the main reasons why I've sided towards the 357, because it has comparable foot-pounds of force to the 45 with a slightly smaller diameter face of the bullet projectile. So most anecdotal sources suggest that the 357 is slightly better at punching through a bear skull than a 45. So I do have bear in my area, so I go with the 357. 25 cal. Okay, it might be a little, yeah, it's about 355. So probably a 357 or 38 would be too large for something comparable to a triple aught. So, I mean, you might just be better off putting projectiles from a 357 into your shotgun slugs. I don't know. Oh yeah, Grizzly is definitely a different class than Black. Fair to say. All right. Final question. We'll wrap